hello there. Yes, come on in. I hear that you've arrived for a sort of a Looksmaxxing for your sleep paralysis demon. Is that correct? I can absolutely help you with that. I have a long history of helping people really make the most of the sleep paralysis demons. So long as they're there, you may as well make the best of it. Absolutely, please have a seat. Have a seat. Do you want tea, coffee? I find that a lot of my clients end up being afraid to go to sleep, mainly because of, said sleep paralysis demons. And a part of it is that I really, want to make them not afraid. But in the meantime, having some tea and coffee will help keep the sleeps away. Okay, no tea and coffee. Okay, you're not at that stage yet. Well, that's very good. Well, I'm glad you're being very proactive. Your health is very important. Your sleep is very important. So please try to sleep as much as you can. All right? Let's go ahead and get started then. So I know that you are here for Looksmaxing your sleep paralysis demon. This is a practice as old as time, really. Looksmaxing in particular. But what we're trying to do is make your sleep paralysis demon a little bit more approachable. When you bring your sleep paralysis demon to events, when you bring them to your Christmas parties, Hanukkah parties, Eid parties, you want to bring them to, it's the end of Ramadan, and you're going to see your family, and sleep paralysis demon is just scaring everyone away. So you want to make sure that they look good, or at the very least they represent you, right? So let's go ahead and say that is our goal, right? Okay, so if that's the case, then let's start with the basics then. Why, right? As I said, because you want to make sure that they represent you. People are not afraid of you or afraid of your sleep paralysis demon. It's really nothing to be ashamed of. Just because you were chosen to have a sleep paralysis demon, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've done anything wrong. I mean, yes, it does mean that in a past life you have committed a cardinal sin of some kind, but that's not you now. And really, it's sort of a prejudice that people have. Absolutely. Yes, so now that we've covered the why, what are we going to be doing, right? Okay, so you might be thinking, well, you are not your sleep paralysis demon, and your sleep paralysis demon sort of appears whenever they want to. How would we be able to affect the look of it, right? Well, it's all from in here. It's all from in here. Okay, so we're just going to have to work with what we've got, figure out what makes you tick, and then go from there. Okay, so with that said, could I get some biometric data? Oh, biometric data is absolutely important. It's a few fingerprints, a facial scan, a few drops of blood, a slight slivering, a sliver of your iris, a bit, just like a carving of your teeth, and a nose hair. It's really all we need. Okay, well, if that is correct, then I will make sure to get the assistant to come by and do that. We'll just go ahead and move along. Really, we need that to help really, we need that mainly so that we can truly understand our clients. So thank you for accepting. No, it's absolutely necessary. It's not unnecessary. We're definitely not going to feed it, or necessarily, we're not going to sell your biometric information to other companies that might want it, so that they can give you sort of personalized ads, and so that you can know no peace. That's certainly not going to happen. So you can trust us here. Okay. So with that said, now that we've established some trust, could I go ahead and ask you about some of your trauma history? Were you abused? Have you had neglectful parents? Are your parents divorced? Oh, that's always a big one. Do you have sort of a nasty sibling, or perhaps a bully? Have you had a bully before? But better yet, have you been the bully? The most traumatized people are the bullies. It's really and just because if you're a nerd, by the way, if you're a nerd, you're probably a bully too. I've met many a bully nerd. I'm blurred. So, with that said, can I get your trauma? Okay. Very good. Classic. Oh, that's a new one. That's very interesting. Did you go to psychiatry for that? Okay. Well, I would definitely recommend going to a psychiatrist, at the very least a therapist. Not everybody really works with cognitive behavioral therapy, but if, I would certainly suggest doing that. If not, a psychiatrist can help. So long as you stay away, I personally have a prejudice against young psychiatrists and young therapists. They tend to feel like know-it-alls, and they tend to use therapy speak to aid and abet your traumas, let's say. So let's go ahead and if I'm so sorry. If you know a young therapist, then please apologize on my behalf. I do not mean to offend. I merely speak the truth. So, all right, I got your trauma down. That's pretty good. Okay, so how this is going to work then, because we're trying to Looksmaxx your sleep paralysis demon, is we're going to work with the 5 senses, right? When you're sleeping, your nervous system doesn't really work very well, and that's when you're first introduced to your sleep paralysis demon, right? So most people, when they have the sleep paralysis demon, what they don't realize is it's just the sleep paralysis demon trying to say hello. They're trying to greet you, but because they look so horrific, because you haven't done the necessary work to make them look, maximally, it will end up being a bit horrifying. So let's just start from the beginning so that when you go to sleep, you will be greeted by a lovely, lovely demon. So, we will work on your 5 senses. Touch, smell, taste, hearing, and sight, right? Not in that order, but it's sort of similar. Each sense is going to affect how your sleep paralysis demon is going to look, okay? So, for the first one, it's going to be touch, okay? So, with touch, the biggest thing, how that affects it is when you touch your sleep paralysis demon, what do you want to feel, right? So, do you want to, and I have some examples here, actually very good, I have these on hand. So, do you want to feel something smooth, something round and smooth, say, this sort of shape? If you want something round and smooth, then you're going to need to do a lot of eating, okay? A lot of just anything, right? Because what you want to do is you want to bloat yourself, because when you bloat yourself, you're bloating the sleep paralysis demon, and they're going to come out much more rounded, right? This is cute. The cuteness isn't a factor, it's just the roundness. And while this is a good example, one thing that you'll be missing is the squishiness of your sleep paralysis demon. If you want sort of a squishable sleep paralysis demon, this is also an option. So, just letting you know. However, if, say, you want a sleep paralysis demon that's a little bit bumpy, a little it's got some texture, let's say. Well, in that case, what you want to do is you don't want to eat very much, you want to be a little bit more on the bony side, right? And say you aren't very bony, say that you're naturally muscular, or you naturally carry a little bit of fat or whatever it is. If that is the case, then this is not a texture that is lost to you. You can still achieve this texture for your sleep paralysis demon. And what you would need to do then is you'd want to make sure to contract a myriad of diseases, particularly on the skin, so that your skin ends up being very bumpy itself, very scarred, right? And when that happens, your sleep paralysis demon will have this sort of lovely texture. Okay? To have a sleep paralysis demon that is on the furry side, like this, let's say. This is a nice furry creature. Then what you would need to do is you would need to go ahead and start hunting. Skin as many animals as you can, because you need your fingers to have that muscle memory of skinning an animal and having that fur. If you buy the fur yourself and you don't skin it yourself, then what's going to happen is that you're going to teach your sleep paralysis demon capitalism. And I'll be honest, then all you're doing is you're creating a boss for yourself in the form of a sleep paralysis demon. You don't want that. So if you want this sort of texture, then you're going to need to do that, okay? Now, one other thing when it comes to touch, it does end up being related to the general look of your sleep paralysis demon. From what I understand, and this is something that I have heard from a lot of my clients, they have found a lot of success with what they call mewing. So if you practice your mewing, right, you go, right, so if you practice your mewing and then you're going to have a very chiseled sleep paralysis demon, they'll still have whatever texture you give them, but apparently your jaw is very important for some reason. Those sleep paralysis demons, they really care about the jaw. It's very interesting. So these are just some things to note here. These are, of course, things that you can't necessarily do right now. This is all just advice. Let me remind you. So for the next one, we're going to do hearing. So for your hearing, we're actually going to have to do a few tests, and it's really one test, right? I'm just going to see how well you can repeat back to me the words that I tell you, okay? And this is going to be important, but I shall explain after the test is over, okay? All right, so you just repeat to me the words that you hear me say. Okay, all right. Demon. Okay. Angel. Oh, wonderful. Liar. Very good. Coconut. Ooh, great. Tail. Okay. Time. All right. Carry. Very good. Wonderful. Okay. So your hearing is good. It is a good hearing. That's pretty important because how it affects. If you have good hearing, then the hearing of your sleep paralysis demon is going to be bad. It's sort of an inverse situation here. I'm not sure why that works that way, but what I will say is there's a reason why when you try to reach out, when you try to talk to a sleep paralysis demon, they don't answer, right? It's sort of difficult to communicate. That's because most people, not everybody, but most people tend to have difficulty hearing, have pretty good hearing. And that way, your sleep paralysis demon can't actually hear you. They're not going to be able to communicate through typical means. So it will cause you a lot less stress to forego that avenue of communication. Okay? So, and of course, if you want your sleep paralysis demon to have good hearing, then you just need to affect your hearing a little bit. Go to a few really loud concerts. Maybe pop an eardrum or something. The sky is the limit. You could take a Q-tip and jam it in there right now, and it will affect your sleep paralysis demon immediately. Okay? All right. Well, now the next thing with the hearing is, of course, music. Music has a magical element to it that is truly amazing. Okay, so what you hear affects the demeanor of your sleep paralysis demon. What genre of music you listen to affects the demeanor as well. If, say, you listen to metal, or if you listen to sort of alt rock, or something of that kind, then you are going to be affecting your sleep paralysis demon. Now, I cannot say exactly how it's going to affect it because the sleep paralysis demon has its own and just its own preferences, its own likes and dislikes, which are different to yours. But it is all written within your DNA, hence why we are going to take so much of that biometric data. All I'm going to say is, when you first meet your demon and they are maybe off-putting, or their personality is not what you expected, perhaps think about changing the music that you listen to, okay? I personally find that if you listen to playlists that are basically that are of a genre, then you can tailor and figure it out from there, okay? All right. So next up is going to be sight. So with sight, it's actually pretty simple. It's not actually related to how you see, okay? It's actually related to the number of eyes you have. So, do you have 2 eyes? If yes, then your sleep paralysis demon will have 0. If instead you have 4 eyes meaning you wear glasses, then your sleep paralysis demon will have 10. The number is very binary, 0 or 10. However, one trick that we recommend here is a sleep mask. If you wear a sleep mask, then you are sort of exempt from this rule. This rule is affected by how many eyes you have on display, not how many eyes you inherently have. Hence why glasses work as an enhancer. So, with a sleep mask, you're effectively reducing the number of eyes you have to 0. When you do that, the calculations end up giving you an infinite number, right? It's incalculable. So it really confuses the sleep paralysis demon and it turns them more docile, right? It's very interesting. Now, they don't need eyes to see. They are perfectly capable of doing whatever they need to do with or without sight. However, it can be a bit alarming when they don't have eyes and when they have a ton of eyes. So what I would do is, if you have a sleep mask, you can poke holes in it, and each hole will count as an eye. Thus, you can create your own formula to get the number of eyes you want. Now, like I said, the number is binary, but it's binary to the number of eyes you have. If you have 2 eyes, you will always get 0. If you have 4 eyes, you will always get 10. So, number of holes, you figure it out from there. That is my advice. All right, so next we're going to go with taste. Now, any guesses what that is going to entail? Yes, it is going to, well, spot on. It is going to be related to your diet. Now, not to bring up a diet or anything, but you are not what you eat when it comes to a sleep paralysis demon. The tastier you eat, the creepier the sleep paralysis demon is going to be. Now, I have no experience tasting a sleep paralysis demon. I would never. I mean, that seems wrong. But, if it does suit your fancy, let's say, the tastier food that you eat, they may be, the creepier they're going to be, but they are going to also be a little bit tasty. Now, how do I know this? This is through rigorous testing. It's something I take my job very seriously, and it's something that you have to do if you have a very serious job. Okay? So, with that said, keep that in mind. And of course, just because it's tasty to you doesn't mean that it is. We're talking about objective tastiness here. So, if you say, for example, have a hamburger, a very typical hamburger. Hamburgers aren't very tasty, but they also leave you very thirsty. So, what is going to happen to your sleep paralysis demon after you eat a hamburger and go to bed? They're going to be very thirsty. Where do you think they're going to get and quench their thirst? Precisely. So, keep that in mind. Okay? Now, lastly, let's talk about the smell. Now, the smell. How you smell will, of course, affect how the sleep paralysis demon is going to smell. However, you want the sleep paralysis demon to be on your side, and this is such a specific thing with sleep paralysis demons. With taste, with the hearing, with music, they have their own preferences. This is not the same. They don't have their own preferences. Well, it's not that they have their own they have their own preferences, but it's the same preference for every sleep paralysis demon. I believe it is a trait of their kind. So, very good things to keep in mind here if you want a beneficial, a beautiful, a wondrous sleep paralysis demon. Musk. You must have a lot of musk. Basically, you want to not wash your sheets. Never wash your sheets. You want to make sure that when you're sweaty, you want to get in bed and really roll around in it. Really get your scent in there. They love the smell of musk. They love the smell of rank. It's truly a wonder. But sometimes it's not enough. Some people don't sweat very much. Some people don't smell very much. And you know what? Those are the poor, unfortunate souls of our world. You know, the fact that they cannot smell, they cannot be stinky, you know, there's nothing more wondrous than being stinky. So what those people have to do is they're going to have to bring in some aids, right? Not that kind of aids, some aiding implements. And what I mean by that is they're going to need some fermented goods, pickles, kimchi, you know, pickled radishes, anything really that's been pickled or fermented of any kind. Sourdough. Sourdough is lovely for this sort of thing, especially if you have the sourdough starter. Wonderful. They will go nuts for it. And that can replace the musk if, say, for example, you are not very stinky or don't want to be stinky in the bed, right? But really, you should want to be stinky in the bed because the sleep paralysis demon, what if you want to share the bed with the sleep paralysis demon? Then, you know, you'd want them to come in, and if they realise that it's just a fermentation and it's not actually you, they might be off-putted a bit, so... and then, of course, the nastier that it smells, you know, the more fermented, the more musky, the more appealing they're going to be. Now, appealing is, of course, a very a term that is a little not very objective, because it is to the you know, based on your own perception, but they will come across much more charming to fellow friends and family members. If you want to bring them home for the holidays, it is going to be it's going to be a riot. Okay, so with those tips, I'm going to write you a prescription for some fermented goods, and I'm also going to write you a prescription for a rank bed, because I don't think you know, I didn't like how you were doing that, or how you were listening in that respect. Okay, and then I also will give you some playlists to look through, and some mewing exercises, okay? So with the mewing exercises and with everything, you should be good to go. You will, we will take your biometric data, and then we will meet back again in a week to 2 weeks. You know, Cassandra's over there. She's going to help you with that, sort of book a schedule and whatnot. And then we will come back and we will go from there. Once we get a good look at your sleep paralysis demon, we'll be able to tweak from there. And I can help you with that, okay? All right, then. Well, have a wonderful time and say hello for me, okay?